Cash for keys and tenants still not moving out? Yeah, this is a $3 million property. We're going to talk about things we can do to have success for vacant possession with our good friend and paralegal Bita Lisi right after this. Okay, my friends, here we are with our favorite paralegal in all of the land, Bita Lisi. How are you, my friend?
I'm well, Gary. How are you doing?
I am doing excellent, excellent. We're in the fall. Fall market is stumbling by, and it's rampant on the landlord and the tenant side. You know, for the resale side, it's slow, as everyone knows. But man, does that ever create quite the ripple effect and sometimes large hurdles to get over on the landlord and the tenant side. And we'll dive a little bit deeper into that. But you always come prepared with a story. What do you got for us today?
Well, speaking of what's going on, a lot of landlords are actually resorting to cash for keys, which is not a problem. It's the quickest way to end tenancy. However, they're not using the qualified professionals that are familiar with the strategy and the law in order to facilitate a cash for keys. Now, no disrespect to our real estate lawyers, they're fantastic. I have very good colleagues that are real estate lawyers, but unfortunately, they're not well versed with the law, the Residential Tenancies Act, or the cash for keys strategy. And when I say that, I mean, when it comes to sending a proposal to a tenant or drafting terms of settlement, they often don't include the clauses that are parallel to the act. So they put in clauses that the parties agree at the time. And if then you know that any clauses or terms that are agreed upon, even if they're voluntarily agreed upon by both parties, if those terms are contrary to the Residential Tenancies Act, they automatically become void and unenforceable. Right? So what happened here is that our landlord client had sold his almost $3 million home, $3 million property, and they agreed on a cash for keys proposal or an offering to the tenant of around $20,000. Everything was signed. The tenant received a portion of the monies. The um, the thought process was that the tenant was going to vacate, the deal was going to close, and the buyer was going to get vacant possession. Well, the tenant visited the rental market, and just like you said, things are so crazy with respect to the rentals. And they cannot find a rental, not only because the prices are so high, but because everyone is competing in this rental market. And therefore, they're not able to move out. But that's not the kicker. Here's the kicker. Because the real estate lawyer had put in terms that are contrary to the act, this tenant is now going to dispute these terms. And it's not likely that an eviction will be granted.
Is that right? Okay. So there's lots we can unpack there. And let's go back to walking us through, there's appropriate ways to do it. And I'm sure your landlord felt like they were doing and making the appropriate ways in the sense that they had their lawyer draft up an agreement and so forth. But, what are some of the holes or some of the things that happens when at the end of the day, the tenant and the landlord don't come to terms, or the tenant in this case doesn't feel they should be moving out?
Well, the most important piece of that puzzle, the N11, was not signed.
Interesting.
What are you paying for? You're just paying for terms of settlement, the rules of the game? Where is the agreement to end the tenancy, the enforceable piece of paper that gets you an order to evict?
Right. It always comes back to the correct documents. It doesn't matter whether you're, trained professionals or not. It's all about the documents. Yeah.
Use the pro. Guys, landlords, don't jump over the dollar to pick up the nickel. It's not going to work. There's millions of dollars on the line, and you're not using it professional who's familiar with the strategy and the act together.
Yeah.
The important piece of the puzzle, the N11, was not signed.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know we were just sharing offline from my perspective, that's currently happening right now is I have clients that are tenants and they are the tenants of a home that was recently sold by their landlord for the new buyers to come in and live there. And case in point, we are finding it incredibly difficult to find a suitable property for them to live in because we're multiple offers on the lease side and it is incredibly difficult. So there we might be one of two or three or sometimes four other offers to lease. And there's that we as landlords now, right? Or paralegals, we have that to contend with as well.
Oh yeah, I cannot believe it, and I don't know how people are affording $4,000 or $5,000 in rent, and that's what's contributing to the backlog for non-payment of rent.
Yeah.
Because maybe they'll have the first and last, but they don't have the consecutive rents moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's an interesting ripple effect and it'll take time to catch up, but it won't catch up fast enough where you now have in this case, and I've read some other cases earlier this morning where landlords are deciding to sell for financial reasons, well, mostly for financial reasons. And in some cases, when that happens, you have end users coming to purchase that home. And now that tenant is being forced to find a place to live, and there's just not enough places around for that individual or that family or what have you, right? So
That's
it's drive. People often ask me, Garrett, like you have your weekly calls with Bita, and it's always the same stories. We're waiting 6+ months for hearings and everything like that. Well, that's even though we've added adjudicators and increased or what am I trying to say? Better the process. We're having more cases come to it, right? More files come to it because of these are the ripple effects, right, Bita?
Yes. We are feeling an increase of the N12 application, notice and application, the L2 application. And that's either for the landlord's own use or for the new purchaser's use. Now, believe it or not, there are many landlords who have been renting, right? And now that everything is getting so crazy or crazy competitive, or they need more space, but the market is just going nuts, they want to move back into their properties,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
Or and the other flip side to that is, um, you know, take me as an example. Next year, I'll have a daughter going off to university, and there's a lot of families out there that perhaps purchased 5+, even 10 years ago, in a town where they thought maybe they'd have a university student, or their children are now, in their 20s or what have you, and they need a place to live. So that definitely is happening, and that's also what's increasing, as you mentioned, the owners moving into their properties, and people often ask, well, where are the movers or where are the owners moving from? Well, it's their family that's moving into them because their families are growing too.
That's right. That's right. And not only that, how is if you didn't own property and your daughter was supposed to move into a rental, how could she afford that coming out of school? Maybe she has debt, maybe we don't know.
That's right.
But the rental game is so crazy. I'm even seeing ads for Toronto bedrooms for like $1,100 for a room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. Nuts. Let's kind of circle into some of the I don't want to get deep into the weeds, but I think we need to have this conversation or enlighten people from your perspective when that form comes in, or when a landlord notifies their tenant that they're selling the home or the new buyer's moving in, and what, not to say what's the tenant's rights, but what, no, I think I want to go there. Some tenants, yep, okay, we need to find a place and we move on, and it all is well. But in a couple of our cases, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, there are some tenants who do cooperate,
Yeah,
but in that specific notice, it tells the tenant, if you do not agree, you don't have to move out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Whether there's a pending sale, whether your daughter's coming out of university and she doesn't have a place, it doesn't matter. The tenant has the right to wait for a hearing. They
Yeah.
have that right for whatever reason. I can't afford another place. I'm sick. I don't have a job. I want to wait till the end of the school year. For whatever reason, they have the right to a hearing.
Yeah. Yeah. And they do not have to move out just because you're selling the house or selling the property, the condo, what have you. Uh,
Exactly.
if you are a buyer out there or you're a buyer's agent, you need to have that heart to heart with your client, that buyer, that if you're looking at presenting an offer on a property that has a tenant that you intend to move into, it may not close because that tenant may not move out. And what does that mean? And I
Well,
know you go ahead, go ahead.
I was going to say, rightfully so, the listing agent should also have the conversation with their seller and let them know that if your tenant doesn't move out, we need to have an extension clause in the agreement of purchase and sale that the parties agree to extend closing for X amount of time so that we can pursue vacant possession.
Mm-hmm.
And one step further, Gary, is that about a year ago, we would see many buyers assume the tenant and then go through the board, even with the seller serving the N12. Now, buyers have gotten smart. They will extend the closing, but they want vacant possession.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the only way for a buyer to protect their
Oh,
future enjoyment of that property,
that's
if you
right.
will. Right.
That's right.
I think that's a fair way to say it. There are, if we kind of get into the purchase and sale agreement, and as you would know as well, right in that any purchase and sale agreement, one of the pre-printed clauses, as we like to refer to them to, I can't remember which number it is. However, it does indicate that the property will be not only free and clear of all encumbrances and liens, which is mortgages, and for the most part, but there's also vacant possession pre-printed right in there. And if you can't provide a vacant possession, uh, property really does not have to close. The lawyers do not have to close on it. And that's where your lawyers come in at the end of the day and negotiate for that extension or negotiate a holdback or something. But you need to make sure you have the right people on your team to make sure that you're getting the success that you're looking for. Bita, what as we kind of wrap up here, what I know I've asked this a few times in the past, and it's important that we land on this more than one on more than one occasion. Is as an owner or as a seller, if I really want to ensure that I can provide a vacant possession, I know 100% that I can't. But what are some things to set me up or set the sale up for success, perhaps?
Well, I always recommend a cash for keys prior to listing the property. Okay. If that is agreed upon, and if you have the right professional that gets the right documents signed, whether or not the tenant changes their mind, there will be a termination of tenancy if the parties agree to a cash for keys at the time of signing the documents. Right? Now, even that's not 100% guarantee. Okay, you can guarantee it 99% of the time, but nothing's 100% guaranteed. But you need the right professional, I will say.
Yeah. And you nailed it. And we always, we bring these stories to light because this is front and center. And of course, this is your wheelhouse. This is your business. This is how you provide your services. But there are also great landlords, buyers, tenants that, we're all people. Pick up the phone, go knock on the door, have the conversation face to face, and great things happen when you do things like that. It's when you need legal advice and you need that support. Go pick up the phone, and then you talk to people like Bita and so forth, and have that right team in place. But remind us how to get a hold of you.
You can get a hold of us by going to our social media, like us, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Also, check out our YouTube channel, lots of great videos there. And you can actually book a free discovery call right from our website, stonegatelegalservices.ca.
Excellent. Excellent. I know people are always asking me how to get a hold of you outside of these videos. So there you have it, my friends. That's Bita Lisi. I'm Gary McGowan. We'll see everybody in the next video. Bye for now.
Bye for now.